Welcome everybody. My name is Sean and I am back from a thing that I was doing late at night, shooting a video, talking to you about, of course, one of our absolute least favorite people on the internet.com, Cenks Nephew. And the reason we're talking about this is because I was working on a longer video on the Twitch streamer caused riot at Union Square in the city of New York, one of these teen takeovers, this time, of course, incited by an evil Twitcher. Twitchers are worse than YouTubers, that is just a straight up fact, and then I stumbled upon this short video of Cenks Nephew making fun of the local news and of a guy who was attacked in this riot, and we gotta talk about it. But before we get into that, I just want to say thank you to everybody who signed up over on actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money, okay?
And thank you to my podcast listeners on Spotify, Apple, and Google's podcasting platform. So again, I will break this down in greater detail, but the long and short of it is a Twitch streamer, who I'm not going to name in this video, decided that it would be a good idea to promise that he was giving away PlayStation 5s at Union Square, and about an hour before this was supposed to kick off, which I believe was at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, a bunch of people showed up. Thousands of people showed up. The videos are absolutely insane. But again, we will go over how this turned into a riot, how Twitch streamers are worser in every possible way than YouTubers in a little bit. But this story is about how one man was actually attacked and was covered by the local news by these teens. They were robbing him. He goes out to defend one of his newsstands. If you guys don't know, these newsstands are all over certain parts of Manhattan. They're usually operated by small business owners, but even if this guy was not the owner of this, or if you're going to one of these newsstands and it's not owned by the person working there, the thing is, they're basically alone in an aluminum box with these teens attacking and robbing it. So this man in his 60s decides to go out and defend his box, and Cenks Nephew is really mad because he's saying the local news shouldn't be covering this, because how dare the local news report on the crime that Cenks Nephew is denying, and we gotta talk about this reaction.
And his whole kiosk was ransacked, all the chips were broken and pulled apart, things were taken off of it, and he was saying that he was injured because he was trying to stop the kids, and they hit his head, his neck, his back. The gentleman is in his 60s. He was talking to EMTs that were there and talking to the police that were there, giving them a report of what happened. But a totally just innocent victim in all this, that he was just doing his job, going about his day, and his business got ransacked there. But from where we are here, it does that the officer circumventing them in that sense.
So this is a pretty straightforward story. A guy who, again, just working at this business, has his newsstand obliterated by these rioters, by these people who are motivated by a Twitcher. I think that Chiron says YouTuber, but I'm pretty damn sure that this guy was a Twitcher promising a giveaway in an overall chaotic scene. And Cenks Nephew, the communist, Cenks Nephew, the guy who's supposedly, allegedly, hypothetically, and theoretically here for the workers, here for the marginalized people, that guy is not white, if you guys haven't understood that yet, is supposed to be siding with this guy, obviously. I mean, they're destroying his livelihood because they're mad about not being able to get a commodity, or they came down for a free commodity, and Cenks Nephew should clearly and obviously be on this person's side. But as you can see, and this is an edited video that came from Twitter,
from my perspective, that's
I fucking despise local media, dude.
Cenks Nephew is laughing, he's smiling, he's having a good time, because in reality, in actuality, he does not give a damn about this worker. He does not give a damn about his plight. All he cares about is pretending away the crime spike, because he wants to say that you should just release everybody, defund and abolish the police, even though we all know that Cenks Nephew, the moment you threaten any of his property, would immediately call the police and demand the strictest punishment humanly possible.
There you go. There is no better representation of how dog water local media is, and how much they exacerbate, like, narratives that you see on Fox News.
So one of the things that's absolutely amazing about these people is that essentially they play a professionally delusional type of role. So Cenks Nephew right here has decided that the real problem, the actual issue in this situation, is the local media. The fact that the local media is exacerbating this. Now, here's the thing, a little bit of a pro tip from me to you, Cenks Nephew. Maybe you shouldn't run the B-roll of the riot while you're asserting this. I mean, right there in the background when you're talking about the local news exacerbating this problem and perpetuating a Fox News narrative, what we're seeing is not old footage, Fox News footage, or exaggerated footage, or footage from a movie. We're seeing this riot get completely out of hand. We see a bunch of high-ranking officers. I believe the white shirts are lieutenants and above. Somebody from the NYPD, correct me in the comments, tell me I'm wrong, look me in the face and tell me I'm a bad person for getting that wrong, and they're being pelted with things. And there's actually a portion of this video, I'm not going to zoom in on it, it might be from a different angle, where one of these officers actually catches one of the projectiles, but another officer ultimately ends up getting hit with it. And remember, this is all about a giveaway for a PlayStation 5 that these teens used as an excuse in order to riot and devastate Union Square. I remember seeing another story, maybe Cenks Nephew would laugh at this woman too, we'll cover it in my longer video about this takeover, of a woman who was a black woman trapped in the little area that you draw money from the ATM at a bank for a long time with her 1-year-old child, and she was terrified to leave, but Cenks Nephew's like, no big deal, I hate the local media. Why is the local media even talking about this? I mean, is this even a notable situation? Why don't we just pretend that this doesn't exist? Now, by the way, this does not exist in a vacuum. This does not exist without prior context from Cenks Nephew, and how terrified he was to go out in any situation similar to this. I happen to remember one evening in the long ago, Cenks Nephew decided that he was going to go out to the Los Angeles Black Lives Matter protests. And me and a bunch of my friends, some of them notable internet people that you guys might be aware of, got together in a Discord and we all watched it live. First time I've ever watched Cenks Nephew's program live, because we wanted to see this guy, when push came to shove, out there when this turned into a riot. But the thing is, Cenks Nephew, absolute coward. The thing is, Cenks Nephew, pure unadulterated weakness and non-principled, because he was out there claiming that these protests were mostly peaceful, even though he excuses the violence of them and says when it is violent, it's perfectly okay, decided that he was going to go home right before it was dark. And I'm sorry if I made a little bit of a glitch in what I just said right there, because when I say right before it was dark, I mean right before it was dark where I am, which is New York City. Cenks Nephew was in Los Angeles, so he went home 3 hours before it became nighttime when he was trying to cover this, because that's how cowardly he was in that moment, and that's how much he would never want to subject himself to any situation like this, because when it's his safety, when he's potentially going to get attacked, when he might be caught up in a riot, Cenks Nephew runs and hides. He runs to his $3 million house. But the thing is, this guy who is in an aluminum box completely surrounded, losing his livelihood, in that situation, oh my god, the local news, why are you even talking about it? Why are you even exaggerating it? Who cares about this story of this 60-plus-year-old man that was being attacked by these rowdy teens in a situation that escalated completely out of hand?
What role they play in the boomer reactionary pipeline? Local media talking about $3 worth of fucking Doritos like, you know, there was a bank run.
So, of course, Cenks Nephew, in his infinite ignorance, also being foul-mouthed, talking about how, oh, it was $3 worth of Doritos, is downplaying the situation. Again, still running the B-roll of how out of hand this situation actually was, to show you how he can look at something and be completely delusional about it, decides that he's gonna just say, oh, it's just $3, and they're acting like it's a bank run.
You know, there was a bank run.
Now, by the way, Cenks Nephew probably meant bank robbery. A bank run is where people show up to a bank because they don't believe that they have their money, so they make a run on the bank and then they get their money. It not necessarily is something that is violent, nor is it illegal, so his commentary isn't even coherent. On top of that, he would probably say that the banks deserve this, these mega corporations, and talk about how they take advantage of the small businesses or whatever, but in this case, he's like, no, they're acting like a bank run, even though he means robbery, and wow, it's $3 worth of Doritos. I mean, you could see the damage in the earlier footage that was shown on Cenks Nephew's stream, but trust me, bro, it was just $3, and it's just your head. I mean, they were just punching you in the back of the head, and honestly, you probably should have let them steal from you, because obviously, you have insurance. Everybody has insurance, and insurance is not something that when you make claims news, you have to file for it and all that, and maybe you get denied. Insurance is something that you just get paid out. Anytime something bad happens, the insurance comes through for you. Your premiums never go up. There's never an issue in getting it. And honestly, we should all just praise the insurance companies because, he probably has insurance. This guy, why is he even complaining? The local news, why are they even covering a story that is local to the city of New York? It's not like they're a local news agency. Oh, wait a minute. Yes, they are. This is exactly what they should be covering. Cenks Nephew is the absolute doof. He is going out of his way to highlight this local news coverage just so he can condemn it, just so he can excuse it, because as I said time and time again, it's not that these people are just ignoring crime. They look at it and they support it. He's into this. He's enjoying it, but of course he's enjoying it for the vendors of New York City, not for himself, because we know Cenks Nephew flees from the riots. We know Cenks Nephew would never want his Porsche anywhere near these kind of people. We know Cenks Nephew would armor up his house, call the police, and want people who try to break into his place to get in trouble, because that's who Cenks Nephew is at his core.
Like, also want to make it seem like, this is a riot that was completely out of control.
Isn't that wild? Isn't that insane? Isn't it crazy that he would say that while showing the footage of this getting completely out of control? We're going to do a video, I promise, on this whole thing. We're going to break it down. But if you guys are unaware, there was actually construction nearby. These teenagers got into the construction sites. They started throwing bricks and other material. As you can see, there's paint being strewn about all over Union Square, and this is a very populated area. People were trapped, and they attacked this individual. So Cenks Nephew is mad that they are trying to say that this riot that got out of control was an out of control riot. They called, if you guys are unaware, and deployed police from every single precinct on the island of Manhattan. Then, when it was still out of hand, when it was still out of control, when you saw those lieutenants being pelted by bricks, by water bottles, by all this stuff, and they could not maintain this area, they also additionally called police from outer boroughs in order to get control of this. This is by definition a completely out of hand and dangerous situation, but Cenks Nephew is mad that the local news reported it as such, because the biggest problem, and I've talked about this over and over again, is not any problem that actually exists, it's the people talking about it. Remember, we talked about Anna Kasparian and her evolution specifically on the crime issue on this channel. One of the number one criticisms that Anna gets is not that she's wrong. Now, granted, there are crime deniers claiming that she's wrong. It's the fact that she's talking about this. Even if it's true, they don't want Anna to speak about it publicly. They think it hurts the left for her to acknowledge reality, which, by the way, is insane for a number of reasons, not to mention the practical reason, which is it doesn't help you. If you're denying reality to this extent, normal, average, everyday people don't want to be with you. Now, I know Cenks Nephew has a bunch of fans that are in this age range, 14-year-old idiots who have no understanding of the economy, that think he's a political genius, that want to be communists themselves, that use their parents' credit card in order to fund the definition of a champagne socialist in this situation. But the thing is, in reality, voting people see this. They see what happens to people in these situations. If they're in these areas, even if they're left-leaning, they feel the danger of it. They hide away like that mother did inside an area where it's a small area where you're trying to get money out of the ATM, and they fear for their children's lives. They understand the consequences of this. But Cenks Nephew, who separates himself from this, who divorces himself from this, who lives in luxury, pure luxury in every possible regard, says, oh, don't talk about it because it hurts his political agenda.
It's tragedy porn met with also like black unruly teenagers. Look at them.
And then we have the final straw that broke the camel's back that made me want to cover this. If you look at these videos, this is a very disproportionately black teenage crowd. It just is. It's a fact. That's what we're talking about right here. That is the issue at hand. And Cenks Nephew doesn't like that because showing the footage actually shows and acknowledges the behavior. But the thing is, you can't correct behavior unless you acknowledge that it's a problem. But Cenks Nephew has absolutely no standards at all for black Americans. So when you have no standards, they can never do anything to disappoint you. If this were a bunch of white people, if this were people, as they always mention, going a little crazy after their favorite sports team won a championship, Cenks Nephew would be pointing it out and say, wow, nobody ever talks about this completely out of control behavior, all because they won a championship. Well, this was a riot that put people in danger. People got injured over this. Police were attacked over a PlayStation 5, over a Twitcher, somebody who is like Cenks Nephew, promising something and not setting up the proper things in order to make sure that this giveaway was done safely. And by the way, the NYPD arrested the Twitch streamer. Great. They definitely should have done that. But more importantly, who is in this crowd most likely to be hit with the bricks that are being thrown? Who is in this crowd most likely to be injured when it gets completely out of hand because nobody's managing it? Those same very black teenagers. I've seen multiple different videos of different objects being strewn about in the crowd, and a lot of it was not just directed at the police. A lot of it was crowd on crowd violence. A lot of it was problems that could have led to serious injuries for these teenagers. So when you think about Cenks Nephew's position, when you think about what he's actually mad about, he's angry that they're talking about a situation and hopefully bringing awareness to a situation to prevent that same kind of situation in the future, because talking about the violence among these black teenagers is worse than actually dealing with the violence that puts many of these same teenagers in danger in the first place. And that is one of the most asinine features of the modern left. They would rather have these people injured or killed than you discuss that and hopefully come to a solution that prevents them from being killed. That's how little they regard these people. No standards for them and no actual legitimate, genuine concern for these people, for their lives, for them to not be injured. Because if he did have any of that concern, if he did have any of that worry, he would obviously come to the conclusion that it's smarter to do something to prevent this in the future, to figure out ways to break this up, to highlight this, rather than just ignore it and move on with your day and get mad that other people haven't bought into your idiotic apathy and your crime denialist nonsense. So Cenks Nephew, you've been the worst for a long time, but you prove it again, time and time again. And don't think I didn't see that clip of Ethan Klein, of all people, calling out Twitchers like you for stealing content and your terrible reaction to it and how embarrassing that was. Maybe that's a video for a future day. Let me know down in the comments if you want to see that. But until then, that's all I really have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, show them by leaving a like. Subscribe for more content. Follow me on the social media. Support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Cenks Nephew being an absolute failure, as usual. Till next time.